Hey folks, Sam here at NA Studios. I want to go through a vocal mixing checklist for you today. Vocal mixing is something that we as engineers do so much of, and it's such an important piece of the puzzle. It's not just the cherry on the cake, you know, it is the entire thing. It's the most important part of any mix that has vocals in it. So it's worth paying attention to, and there's a few things here that you need to be aware of, a few things that your vocal really isn't complete unless you've thought of. So we're going to go through some kind of corrective stuff, some repair stuff maybe, and then some creative stuff as well, and bring this vocal up a few notches. Let's take a listen to it first before and then after the processing is engaged.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry. You see the thing, my love, is I'm not what you're dreaming of. You say you wanna run, yeah, so do I.
There's a fairly significant difference there between the before and the after. Now, as I see it, there are kind of three factors to vocal mixing. There's the tonal element, so this is generally EQ if we're adding or taking away low end, high end. Then there's the dynamics. Is it too dynamic? Does it need compressing? Is it not dynamic enough? Does it need more dynamics adding? Then there's the effects element to it, the reverb and the delay, which creates this sense of space around the vocal. So let's jump in. I'm going to assume for now that you've repaired your vocal to where it needs to be. Maybe it didn't need repairing, but there's plenty of applications out there that can remove clicks, bumps, pops, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into that too much now. And equally, I'm not going to go too much into the tuning. I'm going to assume that you've got a strong vocal performance, it's in tune, and it's free from any kind of nastiness that you don't want in there. So we can jump straight into the nice stuff, the creative part. So first off, I'm going to take all these plugins off, and then I'm going to jump into the very first one. Now this is the N73, the kind of Neve Blackbird channel. I'm only doing one thing with this. I'm just taking off some low end. So I'm just taking this off at like 80 Hertz. All this is doing is removing a little bit of the rumble if there is any. This is really the main kind of corrective process I'm doing here. This is before it hits anything else, so I just want to prepare it for the next steps. I just want to take away any of that low end rumble if it does exist and just get rid of it. So a quick before and after. You may not hear a massive difference, but it's about being aware of these things, and if there is anything there, then you know that this is going to catch it throughout the track.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry.
Okay, so something really gentle there. It's not doing too much, it's not too intrusive, it's more like a safety net for us. And the next one as well is a corrective process. This is de-essing. Now, I see a lot of people de-essing at different points in the chain. To me, I should always de-ess before I'm going into a compressor, and sometimes before it's going into an EQ, sometimes after. It's a story for another day. But to me, I'm always going to be de-essing before I'm going into the compressor. And the reason for that is because if I've got any low level kind of stuff that's going into the compressor, it's going to be brought up. If I've got any S's in there which are going to be protruding, then they're going to be brought down, which if I then put a de-esser on, the de-esser is not going to be as effective because the S's have already been brought down in level. So the difference between the S's, the obtrusive stuff, and the rest of the signal is not as great. So a de-esser can't be as effective. I'm only being quite gentle with this. Take a look and you'll see that it's not reducing too much. I'm just using the Logic stock de-esser here.
You say you're feeling tired,
This yellow bit here,
feeling like our love's expired.
just a small amount.
You say I'm never with you when you cry.
And if I take it off again, you'll hear it's just the S's are protruding slightly.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired.
Especially their love's expired. It feels like that could be a problem further down the line. And a lot of mixing, a lot of this kind of checklist is about being aware of what you're going to do next. I know that I'm going to add some top end EQs to this because the whole vocal needs a bit of a shine. So if I'm doing that, the S's are going to become a problem. And because I'm aware of that, I'm going to de-ess before, and I'm just going to prepare it for that next stage. Now, compression is something that will rein in the dynamics. If you've got anything that's too loud in a certain vocal, then it's just going to bring that down slightly. But too loud is kind of objective. So what I'm not saying here is that these compressor settings are 100% perfect for every single scenario. These work for me, and this is a way in this track of bringing in these louder parts. You can see just here we've got a really loud part that's just going to be a little too much for the ear. It's just going to come through a little too much. If I play this within the track and just take a listen to this section here, you'll hear that it just bumps out a bit too much without the compressor.
You see the thing, my love.
There's too much difference there.
You see the thing, my love.
But with the compressor engaged,
you see the thing, my love.
it's just tickling it. It's just bringing it down slightly. It's not about making massive moves. We're just bringing it down a touch. And to me, in this compressor specifically, the threshold can stay kind of where it is, and the aggression of this compressor really comes from the attack. So if I just solo the vocal again, bring this attack all the way down, you're going to hear a really kind of aggressive, almost distorted vocal compression effect.
You see the thing, my love.
Really aggressive. If I make it super slow, 200 milliseconds,
you see the thing, my love.
It's much gentler, but it's not bringing it down quite enough. So what I've actually done, and a good thing that I think you should do, is bring it up to around 200 milliseconds, somewhere in that region, and from there, bring it down and just hear where it's clamping down on that vocal. So let's just do that now.
You see the thing, my love. You see the thing, my love.
Just grabbing it there.
You see the thing, my love. You see the thing, my love.
Nice. Let's listen to that in the track.
You see the thing, my love.
And then without again.
You see the thing, my love.
You can really hear how it's protruding out of the mix without that compressor. And what I find great about this kind of compressor is that the attack time, it's not got a massive range on it. The slowest it goes is 200 milliseconds. So in a lot of other compressors, you're going to get a massive range. Sometimes you can even go up to a second, which in vocals particularly is not really of much use. So having that shorter range from the super fast kind of affected sound where you can get that distorted kind of effect, and then with the slowest being 200 milliseconds, it's still not that slow really in terms of how compressors work. And if you think about mastering compressors, they may work a little bit slower, but having this shorter range really helps you kind of zone in on the vocals, and this is great for drums as well. Typically I'm putting the release at kind of somewhere between medium and fast because I don't want it to compress for too long. If we do have that compressor on for too long, then it's going to mean that maybe the next phrase, when that comes in, it's still compressing from that high section. So to me, this is kind of a tunable thing. We've gone through the attack, the release, I just want it to come down before the next phrase comes in, so it's not too obtrusive on the parts that I'm not aiming to compress. The EQ for me is really where you get the sparkle, obviously, and this is where you get the real life to the vocal. So just take a listen to it before and after this EQ is engaged, and you're really going to hear it come to life. So I'll play it in the track so you can hear.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry.
So to me, that's just added a bit of shine on the top, and it's added a little bit of body as well. I'm just boosting the top end by a little bit, so we don't necessarily have like actual values in this channel strip. And to me, that's a good thing, because to me, I don't want to be bogged down by numbers. I just want to hear stuff. And this EQ in particular has just got one high shelf setting. I don't even know what frequency it is. All I know is that it brightens the vocal and it sounds great. It's got that real shimmer to it. Whereas in the low end, I'm just adding a bit of body on a specific frequency because I'm sweeping around here. But what I'm not doing is actually looking at what frequencies it's boosting or cutting. I'm not actually too worried about that. I'm worried about how it sounds. To me, adding just a notch of low end just helped that kind of roundness of the vocal. He's got kind of a low voice, and it's just adding a little bit to the body of that. So to me, if you've got a vocal that you've cleaned up, you've got rid of any kind of low end nonsense, if you've de-essed and you've got rid of anything that needs to be de-essed, importantly, you don't have to de-ess, you don't have to get rid of low end if it's not there in the first place, but this checklist is just stuff that you need to be aware of. If you listen to it and it's got no low end nonsense there that you need to get rid of, that's a check, because you've thought about that process and you've realized it doesn't need it, so you can move on. If we're thinking about EQ, then adding that kind of shimmer is something that this track I kind of felt like it needed, and adding the dynamics there and just bringing it down on those louder sections has really helped the whole vocal kind of come together. So let's move on to effects, because I've just got two relatively simple effects here that are really effective. So the first is a reverb, and this is just a chamber reverb. I've not been too selective about this. I've not gone through and really zoned in on different reverbs and been really painstaking about it. I just want a reverb, something that sounds like it's in a large room, something that kind of soaks that vocal up. Take a listen to it before and after. First, we'll hear it before. I'm going to mute the vocal reverb bus.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired.
And let's bring it in.
You say I'm never with you when you cry.
And then in the whole track.
You see the thing, my love, is I'm not what you're dreaming of. You say you wanna run, yeah, so do I.
To me, that's doing two things. It's adding a sense of space, but then it's actually adding some length as well, which makes sense because it's a reverb, because it's kind of lengthening things, but it's just adding an element of kind of sustain to this vocal, which I think is really effective, and it's helping the whole track kind of gel together. Let's just take a listen to it one more time with this effect on and just hear how the whole thing just kind of gels together a bit more.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry. You see the thing, my love, is I'm not what you're dreaming of. You say you wanna run, yeah, so do I.
So in this sort of intimate vocal kind of acoustic track, you need something that's going to fill in the gaps. There's not a massively vast instrumentation, it's just the acoustic guitar and the vocal. You need something that's going to fill in the gaps. So particularly at the beginning section of this, it's really lengthening the vocal and really filling in the gaps and adding to the whole arrangement. The last thing is some delay, and I find that delay can be two things. It can either be just right or it can be far too much, and the difference between those two is very small. It's very easy to just get too much delay in there and you just get a repeat. Now I know a delay is a repeat, but you don't get the sense of a delay, you just hear the delay. And what you don't want with the delay is to be able to hear every single repeat of the vocal, especially in a track like this. So let's just take a listen to it with this delay on, and then we'll take the delay off and just hear what it's doing. I'm just going to solo the vocal just so you can hear it in kind of the rawest sense.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry.
Okay, so the amount that I've actually got that at the moment is relatively little. See, the send is not that high on the fader. If I were to bring that up just a small amount more, it's going to ruin it. So let's just bring it up by like 5 dB.
You say you're feeling tired.
It's just far too much. So I was down at around -22. To me, the vocal delay, once you can hear it, that's the point at which you need to turn it down slightly. It's going to get masked a little bit in the track, but the whole point of having the delay is that it, again, fills the gaps. It adds to that, the overall kind of sense of space, and it just makes everything feel like it exists and makes it all feel a little bit longer in the sustain. So if I bring it into the actual mix and hear it with a delay and then without it, the difference is slight. And that's kind of the point. It's just the gaps in between the vocal that you're going to notice it.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry. You see the thing, my love, is I'm not what you're dreaming of. You say you wanna run, yeah, so do I.
It's just enough to be there. It's just enough to actually make a difference. If I were to bring it up a little bit too much, up to again around -16, it's going to become too obtrusive.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired.
It feels like an echo. So bringing it down, so we've got to that point where we can hear it, and then at that point we bring it down.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm
So you bring it so that it's just adding to the effect. It's not like an echo. It's not a true repeat. It's just adding to the overall kind of ambience of the track. So once again, let's go for a before and after of this track and see exactly what we've done.
You say you're feeling tired, feeling like our love's expired. You say I'm never with you when you cry. You see the thing, my love, is I'm not what you're dreaming of. You say you wanna run, yeah, so do I.
To me, that's taken the vocal from almost like a demo state and brought it up to a real pro sounding vocal. I think the biggest link in this chain is really the EQ. It's adding that shimmer, and having a channel strip like the N73, it really has that beautiful soaring kind of top end, and the compression is just going to make it so it's unobtrusive. The compression is kind of creative and corrective in the sense that it's making it so something doesn't jump out too much, but it's also adding to a little bit of the tone. And I think those two, in collaboration with the effects and the previous kind of low cut and de-essing, make for a great vocal. Thanks so much for checking it out. Next time you're doing a vocal, take a look at this checklist and see if you've ticked all these boxes. See if there's one that you're missing, and maybe that's going to be the key to getting that great sounding vocal. I'll see you again soon. Take care.